This week we watched Maleficent. Was it a good movie or another excuse for weird girls who shop at Hot Topic and giving them a hero? You decide.
I know you. I walked with you once upon a dream. I know you. That look in your eyes is so familiar, a gleam, and I know.
Welcome to Sitcoms Anonymous, your podcast for everything you love about TV. But we're not doing TV this week. We're doing a movie. This is our brand new show, and we call it First Thoughts, in which we tell you our very first thoughts about a movie we just saw. Brendan and I are actually leaving the theater. And what did we see, Bernadette?
We saw Maleficent.
Maleficent, starring Angelina Jolie, Charlotte Copley, Elle Fanning, Imelda Staunton, Juno Temple as well. And it was directed by Robert Stromberg, and this is his very first movie he's ever directed. Bernadette, what are your initial thoughts of Maleficent? Like, did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it?
Well, I am a huge Sleeping Beauty fan from when I was a little girl, and so I did enjoy it.
I am also, I wouldn't say a big Sleeping Beauty fan, but I am a lover of all things Disney, and Disney did make this, and was not my favorite, but I think we'll get into that. Well, let's give a quick rundown of the plot. Bernadette, do you want to start us off? Oh, sorry, hold on. Spoiler alert. There will be minor spoilers. We're going to keep this to a minimum, but we kind of do have to spoil a little bit of the plot just to tell you about it. So
Everyone knows the story of Sleeping Beauty, though.
everyone knows the story of Sleeping Beauty, but
If not, you were sheltered.
yes.
But it's all kind of flipped around from the viewpoint of Maleficent and Aurora as the narrator.
Which was
kind of weird.
It was very strange because Aurora is the narrator as an older woman, but she sounds almost exactly like Maleficent. So I did not know it was Aurora until the very, very end. Aurora is Sleeping Beauty. But I think the best way to describe the plot of this movie is, okay, you know how Sleeping Beauty is born and she gets christened, and apparently Maleficent feels spited and puts a curse on her that she'll prick her finger on a spindle, and Maleficent is a very evil character in nature. I think the plot of this movie is basically
to reveal who Maleficent really is.
Or, what? Hey, maybe she wasn't. Maybe she wasn't a bad guy. And I think that's probably my first big problem with the plot, is I thought this movie would be more, the victors dictate history. And so the story you were told was told from the perspective of the people she had hurt and the people who had defeated her. And really it was more like, no, she's not really a bad guy, and she doesn't really even do the evil things at all that she does in the original movie. And this is a retelling of the Disney movie. Okay, but let's start with things that we like, because I always like to start with the positive. Go ahead, Bernadette. What did you like probably best?
I liked seeing Maleficent and her story.
Yeah.
Who she was and why she has done what she's done, and that was my big thing. I really enjoyed that. Everything else, I realized it was part of the story, but I could have kind of done without it.
Yeah. Do you feel like if you were to watch Sleeping Beauty, you could kind of understand her motivations a little bit better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I would say for the first 2/3 of the movie, I feel like I could do that, but I do feel like it breaks down a little bit in the third act. And not breaks down in the sense of it's bad, because I think the third act is what's best about this movie. But I think it's, I think you kind of lose the story kind of keeps pace with Sleeping Beauty up until that point, and then it just completely changes it. It really changes it for no reason whatsoever. I felt like they changed it so that because they could.
Right.
Angelina Jolie, yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
She did a great job.
She was probably the best thing about this movie.
I did kind of wonder, though, is she that mean to her kids?
I would hope not.
Like, if she got mad, would she be that mean?
she just is cruel and evil. The littlest, not the baby, but the toddler version of Aurora is played by her and Brad Pitt's daughter.
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was interesting. Yeah. I felt, the classic makeup artist Rick Baker, who's done a bunch of monster movies, did her cheekbones. I thought like she looked like Maleficent. I cannot say her name right. I'm sorry, folks. Do you feel like she got the character down though?
Yes.
Okay. And I feel like that's the movie's biggest strength is Angelina Jolie.
Mm-hmm.
It's also kind of the biggest weakness of the film because everyone else is basically pushed aside for her.
Right.
You don't really know the king. The king is kind of a one-note character.
But you think about Sleeping Beauty, you don't really know the king.
No, but
like you see more of him in Maleficent than you do in Sleeping Beauty.
Well, with Sleeping Beauty, that is not Sleeping Beauty's story. That is the fairy's story.
Right.
They're
I'm
your
just
heroes.
saying though, you don't meet him.
No.
Really, you just see him.
But Maleficent in that movie is a one-note character.
Mm-hmm.
And so to make her a fleshed out character, they made these other characters even more one note.
Mm-hmm.
Like Elle Fanning as Sleeping Beauty doesn't really do much.
Right.
They say, oh, she has grace and she has beauty and the world will love her. But they don't really give us a reason for the world to love her.
Mm-hmm.
Not that Elle Fanning is a bad actress by any means. I think her and Sharlto Copley, who plays King Stefan, really do the best of what they have. And I think the Pixies do the best with what they have.
Did not like the Pixies.
The Pixies were probably the worst thing in the movie. They were probably the most annoying characters.
I was hoping for someone nurturing and loving, and
yeah,
they were just annoying. Because there would be times that, like, there would be Princess Aurora, no
supervision,
fairies, no one around, or as her aunts, that's what she calls
her
them.
aunties.
No, none of that.
But I feel like that's the biggest. I feel the story is the biggest problem. Once again, I said spoiler alert. Maleficent is not evil. You see kind of her descent into evil, and then her rise and her redemption. She starts out as protector of the mighty forest, right?
Yeah.
She's the protector of the moors, and she kind of criticizes the fact that humanity has a king and they're greedy and they need to be governed. The forest is self-governing, they take care of one another, and then like completely abandons that idea by the end of the movie. That theme doesn't keep rolling over. And then she meets Sharlto Copley's character, King Stefan. They fall in love. You don't see why they fall in love. They tell you why they fall in love. And then he commits a grave act against her. We won't say what, but it certainly, and this sounds a bit more adult, but it certainly has a sort of a rape aspect to it, in the sense of that he dehumanizes her in a sense.
Yeah.
And her reaction to this is horrifying. Like, this one big problem with this movie is that it's not adult enough to be adult, and it's not fun enough to be a children's movie. It's very in the middle there. So, I don't know. I feel like the problem with Maleficent is, and this is why I don't care for it as much, is they do a lot of telling and not showing. Everything is told to you at the beginning, and it's all exposition-y, and, that's just not fun. I'd rather see, this is them falling in love, and this is why it hurts them both to betray each other and to hurt one another. And I feel like in the second and the third act, when the narrator is dropped, basically, that it gets better because you're seeing it. But that first act is slow and not great. Like, that first act really hurt the movie for me. Yeah. Do you want to talk about visuals? They're pretty.
As in, like, the movie itself?
Yeah, how it looks.
Oh, yeah, it was pretty.
That is a pretty film.
Yeah.
Richard Stromberg this is his first movie as a director. He's an Oscar-winning production artist, and you can tell, like, everything looks good. I think some of your best shots, though, are Angelina Jolie hiding in the shadows.
That was really cool, but kind of scary as well.
It was frightening. It was sexy to a certain degree. It was mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
It just had a lot going for it. And that movie is pretty. I said that when I was telling Bernadette this before we started, that if they were to cut all the dialogue out of that film and just play it with, like, the Sleeping Beauty score behind it, that movie would be 10 times better because it just looks so good.
I don't know that I agree with that. Because there was something about hearing her, like, when she had this crime committed against her, hearing her scream, and they could hear her outside of the moors, and I think there was just something about that.
Yeah,
and
I'll give you that. I think that scene was very, very good. I do think that scene's not something you should let children watch, though, because it's very dark and horrifying. And not like kid dark and horrifying. There are some things that I think kids can be scared a little, but that was almost too much.
Yeah.
And I think, once again, I'm going back to story. There are a lot of plot holes in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can turn your brain off and just forget those, you might enjoy this a bit better. It might be one of those films where you're just like, you know what? I love Disney. I'm going in and I'm just gonna see a good, not even a good. I'm gonna see a solid Disney production, and I think you're gonna enjoy this movie a lot better. Don't go in with high expectations that this is gonna be the most awesome movie ever, because I feel like that's what I did. This was our fourth big summer movie that we been looking forward to.
I enjoyed it,
but I would say my thoughts would be don't keep your expectations low, and I think you'll feel a lot better about this movie.
Okay, on that, let's do ratings.
Ratings. Okay, our ratings are theater, Redbox, own it, or skip it all together. Bernadette.
Theater. Yeah. There's just something about seeing Maleficent's big head on the screen.
Like Zordon?
Yeah.
Does she look like Zordon?
No. But, like you were saying, her makeup is beautiful, and when you see her behind those trees and the shadows, it is horrifying. I don't think watching it on, like, a 50-inch television is going to do the same thing.
I'm going to have to agree of theater. I think you only need to see this movie once, though. I don't think I would ever need to see this again. I feel like if I want to enjoy this story, I'll just watch regular Sleeping Beauty.
We are buying this movie.
I guess we're buying this movie. Because, I think Sleeping Beauty is one of the... I think especially that end scene with the dragon is one of the most beautifully animated pieces of, film ever. And I just don't think this movie holds up to that. And I know it's unfair to compare the movies because they're two different things, but they're telling the same story from two different views. And as a whole, I feel that if you're going to enjoy the story of Sleeping Beauty, just watch the cartoon. Just watch the cartoon.
Do you think that Disney will bring Sleeping Beauty out of the vault when Maleficent comes out?
I think it's already on its way.
Then why didn't you get it for me?
I don't know. I have one last thought. Do you feel like this movie was made because Wicked did so well?
Maybe, but I really don't see that connection.
I don't know. The villain is not really the villain sort of story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
but I don't know.
I'll say this: Wicked, I feel, is a much tighter story because you do see her act cruelly in it.
Yeah.
Or if you've read the book, you read that she does kind of hate the little girl from Kansas. But that's where I feel like that's why it's a better story than this one. But once again, see it in the theater. It is a beautiful film to look at. If just for the visuals alone, go see it there. But like I said, I think you only need to see it once. Bernadette says theater, and then you can own it.
Yes.
And so, I guess we'll differ on that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for listening to First Thoughts. We'll be back with another movie sooner rather than later, probably. We'll see. Maybe me and Sean will be back with X-Men. And we do miss Sean, don't we?
Yes, we miss Sean.
We miss you, Sean, if you're listening. Hey, thanks for listening. I'm Andrew.
I'm Bernadette.
This is First Thoughts, and hey, go to the movies.